The Galactic Council was meeting on Arconus Prime, a space station that floated in the center of the galaxy. It was a huge place, filled with shining towers and glass halls that stretched into the sky. The chamber where the council met was older than most civilizations in the galaxy. The floor was polished stone and the walls glowed with lights that seemed alive. Representatives of many alien species had come. They sat in their seats, their voices rising and falling like a storm of whispers. For centuries, there had been a legend told across the stars. It spoke of a race that once ruled the galaxy long before any of the current species had learned to build ships or leave their worlds. This race, the stories said, had walked among the stars, shaping planets, building great machines, and fighting battles with powers no one else could match. Then suddenly they had vanished. Some believed they had destroyed themselves. Others thought they had gone to another universe. Most laughed at the stories, saying they were nothing more than myths to frighten young races. Only a few believed the tales could be true. Inside the chamber, the alien leaders argued about the crisis spreading in the galaxy. They were worried, but most of them were too proud to admit fear. Their ships and their weapons had always been enough before. They believed they could handle any danger. They did not know the truth yet. In the middle rows of the chamber, a small group of humans sat quietly. The Terran delegation had not been given much importance. Most of the other species saw them as a young race, new to the stars, still learning how things worked. The humans did not speak and they did not argue. They listened, their faces calm. Daniel Carter sat with his hands folded on the table. His dark hair was touched with gray at the temples and his eyes were steady and watchful. Beside him sat Melissa Hayes, her brown hair tied back neatly, her expression patient but sharp. They knew the other species did not take them seriously. That was fine. Humanity had learned to wait. The chamber was noisy with debate. A tall insect-like being from the Xyrix Dominion slammed its limbs against the table. "The ruins we discovered are ours," it hissed. "No one else has a claim." Its voice rattled like breaking glass. The Xyrix were strong and feared across the galaxy. They were known for their pride and for their cruelty in battle. They had found something recently, something that was making the entire council restless. The ruins had been discovered at the edge of the Xyrix Dominion. Strange structures half buried in stone, glowing with light though no power seemed to feed them. Symbols older than any language still shimmered on the walls. Even untouched, the ruins felt alive, humming with silent energy. The Xyrix claimed them at once. They thought they had found tools they could use. They did not listen when others warned them of danger. A representative of the Volari, a species with long silver skin and luminous eyes, stood to speak. "The relics are not yours to use," the Volari said. "They are too old. None of us can claim to understand them. If you awaken them, you could bring danger to us all." The Xyrix leader sneered, the sound like a blade scraping stone. "We are not afraid of dead machines," it said. "We will use what we find and no council can stop us." Angry shouts filled the chamber. The Volari argued. The Othari, a species with wings like translucent sails, begged for caution. The Xyrix only laughed at them all. They were certain of their power. The other council members tried to reason, but it was like speaking to a storm. Daniel leaned back in his seat. He said nothing. Melissa looked at him and he gave a small nod. They both knew what the Xyrix had found. Humanity knew the symbols, the structures, the machines. The other races thought humans were silent because they were young and foolish. They were wrong. Humans had been here before. They remembered. But humanity had decided long ago that silence was better than pride. The galaxy had to learn its lessons. Humanity would not stop the Xyrix, not yet. Melissa folded her hands in her lap. Her eyes followed the arguments in the chamber, but her mind was far away, remembering stories her grandmother had told her. Stories of ruins on Earth itself. Ruins older than anyone dared admit. Stories that hinted at truths humanity had hidden even from itself until the time was right. The council's voices rose higher, filling the hall with noise. The Xyrix Dominion would not listen. They would take what they wanted and they would unleash what they did not understand. And when that happened, the galaxy would remember who the humans really were. Daniel looked across the chamber, his expression calm. To anyone watching, he seemed like a diplomat, quiet and patient. But in his heart, he carried memories not written in any council record. He knew what the ruins were. He knew who had built them. He knew that humanity was not young at all. Humanity was older than every voice in the chamber. They had simply chosen silence until the galaxy was ready to face the truth. The meeting stretched on for hours, with more shouting, more warnings, and more arrogance from the Xyrics. By the end, nothing had been decided. The Xyrics left in triumph, sure of their strength. The other species left in fear, unsure of what the relics would bring. The humans left in silence, saying nothing, giving nothing away. The galaxy still thought of humanity as newcomers. But the truth was waiting, patient and unshaken in the hearts of Daniel and Melissa. The truth was that the galaxy was about to remember its forgotten past. The humans were not what they seemed. They had walked the stars before. And soon, when the Xyrics awakened what they should not have touched, the truth would come crashing back upon them all. The Xyrics' dominion moved quickly after the council meeting. Their ships flew to the edge of their territory where the ruins had been discovered. The ruins rested on a barren planet covered in gray dust and black stone. From orbit, the planet looked lifeless, but on the surface the strange structures pulsed with a soft glow. Towers of metal and stone rose half-buried from the ground. They had stood there for longer than anyone could measure, untouched by time, untouched by weather. The Xyrics believed they had found their treasure. They believed these relics would make them stronger than every other race. The Xyrics commander walked through the ruins with his guards. His body was covered in sharp armor like scales, and his eyes shone with a cruel light. He placed his clawed hand on one of the glowing walls. The surface was smooth and warm, like the wall itself was alive. Strange symbols carved into the stone glimmered faintly. He did not understand them, but he smiled. He was sure these ruins held power he could use. While the Xyrics worked to unlock the secrets of the ruins, the Galactic Council grew restless. They called more meetings, but nothing changed. Every race argued, but no one could stop the Xyrics. They were too powerful, and their pride was too great. The Valari spoke again and again of caution. The Othari begged the Xyrics to wait. The Xyrics ignored them all. In their minds, the ruins were theirs alone. Daniel Carter and Melissa Hayes returned to their ship after the council meeting. Their vessel was small compared to the massive ships of other species, but inside it was filled with human technology that no one else understood. The humans kept much hidden. They let the galaxy think they were still learning. Daniel walked the narrow hallways of the ship, his steps slow, his thoughts heavy. Melissa followed him, her voice quiet. "They will not listen," she said. "The Xyrics never listen," Daniel nodded. "They will learn the hard way. But when they do, the others will look to us. We must be ready." Melissa studied him, her eyes serious. "Do you think the ruins are the ones?" Daniel paused before answering. "Yes, they are human, old beyond measure. If the Xyrics awaken them, the truth will not stay hidden much longer." The ship drifted in orbit above Arconis Prime. The humans kept to themselves, saying little to the other races. But in secret, Daniel and Melissa reviewed old records stored deep in human archives. Images of ruins on Earth, ruins no one admitted existed. Pictures of star maps carved in caves long before humans were supposed to know the stars. They were the same symbols the Xyrics had found. The same patterns, the same designs. Humanity had left them across the galaxy in an age no one remembered. Far away on the barren planet, the Xyrics pressed forward. Their scientists worked around the clock trying to open sealed doors, trying to awaken strange machines buried in the stone. They used drills, lasers, and energy fields. They did not stop to think what might happen if they succeeded. To them, everything was a weapon to be used. They wanted power, and they believed these ruins would give it to them. The first signs of danger came quietly. A humming filled the air, low and steady like the heartbeat of the planet itself. The Xyrics ignored it. Lights began to flicker across the ruins, moving in patterns no one could follow. The Xyrics called it progress. They did not see the warning. Back on Arconis Prime, the Council received reports. Strange energy readings from the Xyrics planet, signals that matched nothing known. The Valari grew pale with fear. The Othari begged the Xyrics to stop, but the Xyrics only laughed at their fear. "We are not children," they said. "We will not be frightened by glowing rocks." Daniel and Melissa listened to the reports in silence. Melissa's hands tightened into fists. "It has begun," she whispered. Daniel said nothing for a long moment, his face calm but his eyes cold. Finally he spoke. "They will not be able to control it. When it awakens, it will not serve them. It will destroy them." The Xyrics commander stood in the center of the ruins as the humming grew louder. His scientist reported success. They had unlocked one of the sealed chambers. The doors opened with a hiss of air, though no air should have been left inside after so long. Inside was a chamber filled with machines. Strange devices stood in neat rows, their surfaces shining as if new. In the middle of the chamber was a sphere, glowing with light. It floated above the ground, spinning slowly. The Xyrix commander stared at it with wide eyes. He thought of it as his prize. When he touched the sphere, the ruins came alive. The ground shook, the towers pulsed with light, and the air crackled with energy. The humming became a roar. The Xyrix soldiers raised their weapons, but their weapons meant nothing against the power that had been unleashed. The machines awoke, their lights blazing. Symbols flashed across the walls. The Xyrix did not understand them, but if a human had been there, they would have known. The symbols were warnings. Across the galaxy, sensors detected the surge. On Arconis Prime, alarms rang through the council chambers. The Valari shouted that the Xyrix had gone too far. The Othari cried out in fear. The Xyrix delegation stood proud, their voices filled with triumph. "We have awakened the power," they declared. "Now the galaxy will bow to us." But Daniel and Melissa knew better. They knew the Xyrix had not gained control of the ruins. The Xyrix had only unleashed forces they could not understand. Daniel rose from his seat in the council chamber. His voice was calm, steady, and strong. "You fools," he said. "You think you have found a weapon. You have found a storm, and it will not obey you." The Xyrix sneered at him. They did not take his words seriously. They had always thought of humans as weak and unimportant. But as the energy from the ruins spread across their planet, their pride began to crack. Ships in orbit reported systems failing. Colonies near the ruins were swallowed by strange storms of light. Entire fleets vanished in bursts of energy. The Xyrix began to realize something was wrong. But it was too late. The ruins were awake now, and the galaxy would soon know what the humans had known all along. The past was not gone. It was only sleeping, waiting for the moment to return. The ruins on the Xyrix world were no longer quiet. What had once been still and lifeless now burned with light. Towers that had been buried for ages rose slowly from the ground. The surface shook as if the planet itself was waking from a long sleep. The Xyrix soldiers tried to hold their ground, but fear filled their eyes. The humming that had begun softly now thundered through the air like the beating of a giant drum. Every step the Xyrix took echoed against the glow of strange machines that had not moved in thousands of years. The commander of the Xyrix forces shouted orders, but even his voice shook. He had believed the relics were weapons he could claim. Now the power was everywhere, wild and uncontrollable. The floating sphere in the chamber grew brighter and brighter, until the Xyrix could no longer look at it without covering their eyes. Energy poured out of it like a storm, racing across the ruins, spreading through the sky. Ships in orbit reported failures in their systems. Some were struck by sudden bursts of light and shattered instantly. Entire fleets were being torn apart before they even fired a shot. Back on Arconis Prime, the Galactic Council watched in horror as reports poured in. The screens in the chamber showed the Xyrix planet glowing with streams of light that spread out like rivers of fire. Colonies near the ruins disappeared under storms of energy. The Xyrix delegation tried to stay proud, but their voices trembled as they shouted that they had things under control. No one believed them. Fear filled the chamber as the other races argued, blaming the Xyrix, blaming each other, but all of them afraid. Daniel Carter sat quietly, his hands folded. Melissa Hayes stood beside him, her eyes on the screen. Around them, chaos ruled, but the two humans did not shout. They did not argue. At last, Daniel rose from his seat. His voice was steady, cutting through the noise of the chamber. "You were warned," he said. The hall grew silent. Every eye turned toward him. The Valari representative stepped forward, their silver skin shimmering in the light. "What is it?" the Valari asked. "What have they awakened?" Daniel looked at the screens, then back at the gathered council. His eyes were calm, but his words carried weight. "They have awakened what they cannot control. These ruins are not alien to us. They are ours. They were built long before any of you walked the stars." The chamber fell into stunned silence. The Xyrix delegation shouted in anger, but the other races did not join them. They stared at Daniel with disbelief. Humans, builders of the ruins? It seemed impossible. Humanity was young, they thought. Humanity had only just begun to reach into the stars. How could this be true? Melissa stepped forward, placing a small device on the council table. With a hum, it lit up, projecting a map into the air. It was not like any map the council had seen. It showed the galaxy, but it also showed hidden paths, forgotten gates, and secret stations placed among the stars. The markings glowed with the same symbols that now burned across the Xyrix planet. Melissa's voice was soft but clear. "These are records," she said. "Records from long ago. Humanity walked the stars when your species were still in their infancy. We built, we fought, and we left behind more than ruins. We left warnings, the council chamber filled with whispers. The Othari, their wings trembling, looked frightened. You mean to say the humans are the ones?" they asked. "The ones from the old legends?" Daniel gave a slow nod. "Yes, the stories you tell of an elder race are not myths. They are memories of us. Humanity was the first. Humanity fought wars against forces older still, and when those wars ended, we withdrew. We chose silence. We let time cover our paths because the galaxy was not ready to remember." The Xyrix leader slammed its claw against the table. "Lies!" it shouted. "You are weak. You are children. We saw you crawl into the stars only a few lifetimes ago." Daniel met the Xyrix leader's glare. "That is what you were meant to see. We chose to hide. We chose patience. Do not mistake patience for weakness." His words echoed in the chamber, heavy as stone. As the argument raged in the council chamber, the situation on the Xyrix world grew worse. Entire cities collapsed under the storms of light. Machines older than history rose from the ground, towering shapes of metal and stone, their movements slow but unstoppable. The Xyrix armies fired their weapons, but their beams and missiles vanished into the glow without effect. The commander who had once been so certain now screamed orders in desperation, but nothing worked. The planet itself seemed to be against them. Reports showed Xyrix fleets retreating, their ships breaking apart as they tried to flee. Colonies sent distress calls that were swallowed by silence. The Xyrix dominion, once feared by all, was now being torn apart by forces they had awakened with their own pride. Melissa turned from the council table to look at Daniel. Her voice was quiet, meant only for him. "They will not be able to stop it. The others will be forced to face the truth." Daniel's eyes remained on the screen. "Yes, and when the truth comes, they will look to us. The time of hiding is almost over." In the chamber, the council leaders argued about what to do. Some wanted to send fleets to fight the ruins, though they knew their weapons would fail. Others begged for evacuation of nearby systems. The Xyrix demanded support, though they had never offered it to others. But in the middle of the noise, Daniel and Melissa remained calm. They knew what was happening. They knew that the ruins were only the beginning. Humanity's past was stirring, and nothing would stop it now. Melissa raised her voice once more, speaking to all of them. "This is not just a Xyrix problem. The ruins are not theirs. They are not yours. They are part of something greater, something older. If they continue to awaken, they will not stop at the Xyrix. The storms will spread. The galaxy itself will be caught in the fire." The Volari bowed their head, their luminous eyes dim with fear. "Then what must we do?" Daniel looked at them, his expression calm but firm. "You must accept the truth. The humans you see before you are not the beginning of our story. We are the continuation. We are the ones who came first. And if the galaxy wishes to survive, you will need us." For the first time in the council's long history, the chamber was silent. No one shouted. No one argued. Even the Xyrix had nothing more to say. They had awakened something too great, and now they had no choice but to listen. Outside, the Xyrix world burned with light, and in the shadows of space, humanity prepared for what would come next. The Xyrix dominion was collapsing under its own mistake. Their proud fleets had been scattered, their colonies turned into wastelands of glowing storms. What they had once claimed as their prize had become their curse. The ruins were no longer ruins. They were alive again, and the machines that rose from them moved with purpose. Towers stretched upward, piercing the skies of the barren world. Shapes of stone and steel unfolded like giants waking from a deep sleep. The Xyrix soldiers who had thought themselves strong now ran in terror. The commander who had first touched the sphere was gone, consumed by the very energy he thought he could control. On Arconus Prime, the Galactic Council sat in fear. Messages came in from across the stars. Xyrix ships were fleeing into other territories, broken and desperate. But wherever they went, the storms followed. Strange signals reached deep into space, spreading like ripples across water. Some feared the entire galaxy would soon be caught in the same fire. The once proud Xyrix begged for help, their arrogance shattered. Their voices shook as they called for unity, but none of the other species rushed to their side. For too long, the Zyrex had shown no mercy. Now no one wished to give them theirs. Daniel Carter and Melissa Hayes remained calm. They had seen enough to know what was coming. They stayed silent while the others shouted at one another. At last, when the fear in the chamber grew too heavy, Melissa stepped forward. Her voice was steady but gentle. "You do not understand what is happening," she said. "The machines you fear were built by our kind. They are old, older than your histories. They are not mindless weapons. They are guardians. They were left behind to protect something greater." The Valari leaned forward, their silver eyes wide. "Protect what?" they asked. Melissa looked to Daniel and he nodded for her to continue. "They were built to protect the galaxy itself. Long ago, when humanity was young only in body but ancient in knowledge, we fought wars beyond imagining. Enemies rose that threatened not just our worlds but the stars themselves. We created guardians to keep the balance, to make sure such threats could never rise again. But in the end, we knew the galaxy was not ready. We chose to sleep, to bury our history, to let younger races grow. We left only fragments behind." The chamber was silent except for the faint hum of the projection Melissa placed on the table once more. It showed star systems scattered with hidden markers, faint signals only humanity could recognize. The Othari, their wings trembling, whispered, "And now those fragments are waking again." Daniel spoke then, his voice like stone. "Yes, the Zyrex thought they could claim what was never theirs. They broke the seal and now the Guardians rise. They will not stop until they finish their purpose. But the Guardians do not see you as allies. To them you are strangers. To them only we are known." The Zyrex leader, humiliated and enraged, slammed its claws against the table. "If what you say is true, then call them back. Command them. Make them obey you." Its voice cracked with anger and desperation. Daniel's gaze hardened. "You unleashed them. You did not listen when warned. Now you ask for our help. Do you finally admit that humanity is not what you thought?" The Zyrex leader had no answer. Its pride was gone, buried under the fear of extinction. Meanwhile, reports kept coming. Fleets sent to investigate the Zyrex world were destroyed without a fight. Colonies evacuated, their skies glowing with storms of symbols that no one but humans could read. Strange machines awakened across distant moons as if answering a call. The galaxy was beginning to understand that this was not a local disaster. It was the awakening of an age-long silence. In their ship above Arconis Prime, Daniel and Melissa met with a small group of trusted humans. They gathered in a quiet room lit by soft lights, their faces serious. One of them, a young man named Alex Grant, asked, "Is it time?" Daniel nodded slowly. "Yes, the galaxy has seen enough. They must know who we are. If we wait longer, the Guardians will bring destruction without guidance. We cannot allow that." Melissa placed her hand on the table. "We have hidden for centuries, but hiding has a cost. The time for patience is over." The humans spoke quietly among themselves, but their decision was clear. Humanity would reveal its truth. They would no longer pretend to be a young race. They would step into the light as what they truly were, the first, the elder species. Back in the council chamber, the leaders of the galaxy argued about survival. Some wanted to join their fleets to fight the Guardians. Others wanted to abandon systems and flee. Daniel rose again, his voice steady. "Your weapons will fail," he told them. "Your fleets will be shattered. Do not waste your strength. The Guardians do not answer to you, but they may listen to us." The Valari looked at him with desperation. "Then guide us," they said. "If what you claim is true, then humanity is our only hope." Daniel nodded, but his words were heavy. "Hope, yes, but understand this. We are not your servants. We will not fight your wars for you. We will do what must be done to save the galaxy. But you must accept that humanity is not the newcomer you believed. We are the beginning." A hush fell over the chamber. Even the Zyrex were silent. They had no choice but to listen. Outside, the Zyrex world was consumed by light. The towers of the ruins had become shining beacons, sending signals deep into the void. Across the galaxy, hidden stations stirred awake. Forgotten ships rose from under layers of rock and dust, their hulls gleaming with symbols no one else understood. The galaxy was changing, and the change could not be undone. Melissa watched the screens with quiet determination. She knew the storm was only starting. "They are calling to us," she whispered to Daniel. "They remember us." Daniel's eyes were steady. "Then it is time we answered." And so, as the galaxy trembled under the weight of its forgotten past, humanity prepared to step forward. Not as a young race finding its way among the stars, but as the ancient power that had shaped them long before the others had learned to walk. The silence was over. The truth was awake, and the galaxy would never see humanity the same way again. The galaxy held its breath as humanity prepared to reveal itself. Hidden ships that had rested for centuries emerged from beneath moons and asteroids, their hulls gleaming with symbols of power long forgotten. Humanity had waited for this moment, patient and silent, allowing the younger species to make mistakes, to awaken dangers they could not control. Now they would guide the galaxy, but not as servants. They would step forward as the elder species. Daniel Carter stood on the bridge of the lead human ship, looking out at the stars. Beside him, Melissa Hayes checked the readings from the Xyrix world, where the ruins continued to pulse with wild energy. The Xyrix fleets that had survived were scattered, broken, and desperate. They had awakened forces they could not contain, and now they had no choice but to watch as humanity intervened. Daniel turned to his team of human officers. Alex Grant, Sarah Miller, and James Thompson were among those who had waited for this day. "We have waited for centuries," Daniel said, his voice calm but firm. "Now it is time to show the galaxy who we are. Remember, we are not here to dominate. We are here to restore balance and prevent destruction. Move carefully and the galaxy will understand." The human fleet spread out, moving toward the Xyrix planet. As they approached, the guardians that had risen from the ruins recognized them. Massive machines of stone and metal bowed slightly, acknowledging the humans as their rightful masters. The Xyrix watched in terror as weapons that had seemed unstoppable fell silent in the presence of humanity. Ships that had been lost in storms of energy were restored, lifted gently by invisible forces. The Xyrix did not understand. They could not comprehend what they were seeing. Melissa stepped forward on the bridge, activating a projection that displayed the hidden pathways and ancient stargates across the galaxy. "These are the routes we left for ourselves," she said. "Paths to protect, to explore, to defend. They are not for conquest, but for order. With them, the galaxy can survive what is coming." Across the council chambers of Arconis Prime, the alien leaders watched the unfolding events in silence. They saw humans moving with precision, controlling the Guardians and stabilizing the chaos that the Xyrix had caused. Slowly, fear was replaced by awe. The Othari whispered among themselves, wings trembling. So the legends were true, they said. Humans were the first. Humans built the galaxy before we even dreamed of flight. The Xyrix leader, humiliated and desperate, tried to order its remaining fleets to attack. But their weapons failed again, the Guardians blocking every strike. Ships were lifted from the ground and returned to orbit, unharmed under human control. The Xyrix had no understanding of the forces they had unleashed. Every move they made only proved the truth. They were children in a galaxy of elders. Daniel spoke again, his voice reaching across the networks to the Xyrix and the Council alike. "You see now, we did not interfere before because it was not our time. We allowed the galaxy to grow and learn. You made mistakes. You awakened dangers you could not control. Now we have returned, and the galaxy will be guided by those who first walked among the stars." On the Xyrix planet, the machines worked to contain the energy that had once torn ships apart. Storms calmed, light dimmed to manageable levels. Cities and colonies that had been threatened were preserved. The Guardians were no longer wild forces. Under human command, they became instruments of protection. Xyrix soldiers fell silent, watching humans move with power and authority they had never imagined. Daniel turned to Melissa. "Begin communications with the Council," he said. "It is time they understand fully who we are. No more myths. No more hiding. They need to accept humanity as the elder species." Melissa activated the Universal Comms Network. Her voice, calm and strong, echoed to every corner of the galaxy. "To all civilizations, hear this. Humanity was the first. We walked the stars long before any of you knew flight. We built empires, we fought wars. We left guardians to protect the galaxy when we withdrew. The time of hiding is over. We are here, and we will guide the galaxy as it must be guided. The Xyrix have awakened forces they could not control. We have restored balance. Learn this. Humanity is older, wiser, and more powerful than you imagined." The council members absorbed her words in silence. Even the Xyrix could not argue. They had seen proof in the sky and on the planet. Humanity was not a newcomer. Humanity had shaped the galaxy itself. Slowly, Daniel moved among the human fleet, overseeing operations as Guardians stabilized the Xyrix systems. His steps were measured, careful. He had waited centuries for this moment. Humanity had survived not through aggression but through patience, knowledge, and wisdom. They had allowed the younger races to grow, to make their own mistakes and to understand the truth in their own time. Alex Grant approached Daniel, his eyes wide. "Do you think they will accept us?" he asked. Daniel nodded. "Some will. Some may take longer to understand. But the truth is clear now. We are the elder species. We are the beginning of what this galaxy is. They cannot ignore us any longer." Melissa walked beside Daniel. "And the Xyrix?" she asked. "They will remember," Daniel said, "and they will know that arrogance has consequences. But we are not here to destroy them. We are here to guide them, to restore balance. They will have a chance as the others do, but they will not forget." Across the galaxy, the message spread. Humans were no longer silent. Their technology, their ships, their guardians, and their knowledge were visible to all. The galaxy slowly began to shift in its understanding. Stories of myths and legends were replaced with truth. Humans had walked the stars before anyone else, and now they had returned, not as conquerors but as guides and protectors. The Xyrix, broken and humbled, watched as humans restored order. Ships that had been wrecked were repaired. Colonies threatened by storms were saved, and systems destabilized by reckless actions were stabilized. The Guardians, once feared as uncontrollable forces, moved in harmony with humans, following their commands to protect, not destroy. The Xyrix had learned too late, but the galaxy had seen the truth. Daniel addressed the council one final time. "The galaxy must understand that we are not here to rule. We are here to ensure survival. Our past is your past too, though you may not have known it. Humanity was the beginning, and we will act as guardians for all. Accept this and the galaxy can prosper. Ignore it, and the consequences will fall on all of you." The chamber remained silent, the weight of his words settling over every species present. Slowly, understanding began to take root. Fear was replaced with respect, and respect with awe. The galaxy had long forgotten its elder. Now humanity had returned to remind them. As the stars gleamed across the void, the human fleets returned to their hidden stations, guardians at their sides. The Xyrix subdued, but alive. Humanity had stepped into its role. Not as conquerors, not as tyrants, but as the original elders. The galaxy had been warned, the lessons delivered, and the balance restored. Melissa looked out at the stars, her eyes calm. "It is done," she whispered. Daniel nodded. "For now. But the galaxy must remember. We are here and we have always been. The elder species cannot be ignored. Never again." And so, as quiet returned to the council chambers and the Xyrix world settled, the galaxy knew a truth it could no longer deny. Humanity was the first, the elder species, patient, wise, and powerful. The legends had been true. The stories were not myths. The stars themselves had been shaped by humans long before any other race walked among them. And now the galaxy would see that the age of silence was over, and the age of humanity had truly begun.